In both your personal and professional life, there's one skill that stands above the rest: persuasion. Whether you're trying to get a new opportunity at work, persuade someone to support your idea, or simply ask for something from a friend or colleague, the ability to persuade is what makes things happen. But persuasion is not something you're born with, it's a skill you can develop and master over time. Imagine being able to walk into any situation, whether it's a job interview, a meeting, or a conversation with a client, and knowing exactly what to say and how to say it to get the results you want. Think about how much easier your life would be if you could persuade people to agree with your ideas, support your goals, or even just say yes when you need them to. The good news is it's possible. In this book, you'll learn the strategies and techniques to influence others effectively and ethically. We're going to break down the key steps to building trust, making people like you, and getting your point across in a way that makes others want to listen and act. You don't need to be a master of manipulation or have any special tricks up your sleeve. What we're talking about is understanding people, speaking their language, and connecting with them in a way that feels natural. This isn't about being pushy or overbearing, it's about recognizing what motivates others, how to communicate with them in a way that resonates, and how to get the outcome you want. You'll learn how to make your requests in the right way, how to handle rejection gracefully, and how to build rapport quickly so that you can make lasting positive connections with people. As you move through this book, you'll find easy-to-follow practical advice that you can start using right away. By the end, you'll feel more confident in your ability to persuade others, whether you're negotiating a deal, pitching an idea, or simply asking for help. These are skills you can apply in everyday situations, and with a little practice, they'll become second nature. If you're ready to learn how to persuade with ease and get the things you want from anyone, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the practical steps that will help you master the art of persuasion. Chapter 1: Why persuasion is the most important skill in life. Persuasion shapes everything around us. It's in every conversation, every deal, every decision. It's the reason some people get what they want effortlessly while others struggle to be heard. Most people don't realize how much persuasion affects their daily lives. They think success comes from working hard, being smart, or just having good luck, but the truth is the people who move ahead in life are the ones who know how to persuade. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers and instantly making them feel drawn to you. Picture asking for something, a promotion, a discount, a favor, and hearing yes without hesitation. Think about how much easier life would be if people naturally wanted to agree with you. This isn't a fantasy, it's what happens when you understand the power of persuasion. Every day people are persuading or being persuaded. When you apply for a job, you're persuading the employer to hire you over someone else. When you ask for help, you're persuading someone to take action. Even in small moments, choosing where to eat, deciding on weekend plans, convincing a child to do their homework, you're using persuasion. The question is, are you doing it well? The ability to persuade trade isn't reserved for salespeople or politicians. It's a skill anyone can learn. Some people pick it up naturally, but most have to develop it. Once you understand how it works, you'll notice a shift in the way people respond to you. They'll listen more, agree more, and trust you more. It's not about being pushy or aggressive. Real persuasion feels natural. It makes people want to say yes. People often mistake persuasion for manipulation, but they're completely different. Manipulation is about tricking people for personal gain. Persuasion is about presenting your ideas in a way that makes sense to others. It's about creating a win-win situation where both sides feel good about the outcome. The most successful people don't force others to agree with them. They guide conversations in a way that makes agreement the natural choice. Think about the people who always seem to get their way. They aren't necessarily the loudest or the most forceful. They have a way of speaking that makes others listen. They know how to connect with people on a deeper level. They make their ideas sound appealing, their requests sound reasonable, and their presence feel valuable. That's persuasion in action. Without persuasion, even the best ideas go unnoticed. Hard work alone isn't enough. You can be the most skilled person in the room, but if you can't communicate your value, you'll be overlooked. Look at the workplace. Two employees could have the same level of experience. One speaks up with confidence, knows how to frame their contributions, and persuades decision-makers to see their worth. The other keeps their head down, hoping their work will be noticed on its own. Who do you think gets the promotion? Persuasion is the difference between being forgotten and being remembered. It's what makes someone's words carry weight. It's why some people can walk into a meeting and have their ideas accepted instantly, while others struggle to get a single point across. When you know how to persuade, you don't have to fight for attention. People naturally listen. Success isn't just about talent or effort. It's about being able to influence people in the right way. The most successful individuals, leaders, entrepreneurs, top performers are all great persuaders. They don't sit around waiting for opportunities to come to them. They create opportunities by convincing others to believe in them. They know how to present their thoughts in a way that excites, motivates, and inspires action. Even in personal relationships, persuasion plays a huge role. Think about moments where you needed to resolve a disagreement, plan something important, or make a big decision with someone else. The way you communicate in those situations matters. If you push too hard, people resist. If you hesitate, they ignore you. But when you use the right approach, people listen and engage. Relationships thrive when both sides understand each other, and persuasion is the key to making that happen. Most people struggle with persuasion because they don't know what actually works. They either try too hard and come off as demanding, or they hold back and fail to get their point across. Persuasion isn't about being forceful, it's about knowing how to present your ideas in a way that makes people feel good about agreeing with you. Some think persuasion is about talking more, but the best persuaders listen just as much as they speak. They pay attention to what others care about. They understand what motivates people, what makes them hesitate, and what makes them excited to say yes. They don't just throw words out and hope for the best. They shape conversations with intention. Once you master persuasion, life feels easier. Conversations flow smoothly. People are more open to your ideas. You stop feeling like you have to fight for attention because people naturally respect your words. It's a skill that can take you from struggling to thriving in almost every area of life. Persuasion isn't about tricking people, it's about understanding them. It's about knowing what makes people tick and using that knowledge to communicate more effectively. When done right, persuasion doesn't feel like persuasion at all. It feels like connection. It feels like trust. And when people trust you, they say yes more often. Some people spend their whole lives struggling because they don't realize how important persuasion is. They work hard but don't get recognized. They have great ideas but can't get others to listen. They know what they want but they don't know how to ask for it in a way that gets results. It doesn't have to be that way. With the right skills, anyone can become more persuasive. This isn't about changing who you are, it's about learning how to communicate in a way that makes life easier. Imagine knowing exactly what to say in any situation. Imagine feeling confident when asking for what you want. Imagine never feeling ignored, dismissed, or unheard again. That's what persuasion can do for you. The world is full of opportunities, but only for those who know how to take them. Persuasion is the tool that allows you to do that. It puts you in control. It helps you stand out. It makes people remember you, trust you, and want to work with you. And once you develop the skill, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Chapter 2: How to make people like you in minutes. People decide whether they like you within the first few minutes of meeting you. It's not always fair, but that's how the mind works. A first impression sets the tone for everything that follows. If you get it right, people warm up to you instantly and conversations feel natural. If you get it wrong, it becomes an uphill battle to change their perception. The good news is that making people like you is not about luck or guessing. It's a skill, and anyone can learn it. People like those who make them feel good. If someone enjoys being around you, they'll naturally be drawn to you. The mistake most people make is thinking they have to impress others with achievement stories or jokes. That's not what makes people connect. The real key is how you make them feel. If a person feels important, heard, and valued in your presence, they will like you. It's that simple. The fastest way to make someone feel important is to show genuine interest in them. When you meet someone, focus on them rather than on yourself. Ask about their experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Most people love talking about themselves. When given the chance, they rarely meet someone who truly listens, so when they do, it stands out. If you give someone your full attention, they will walk away feeling good about the conversation, even if you barely spoke about yourself. Eye contact plays a big role in building instant connections. When you look at someone while they're speaking, it shows that you're present and engaged. People notice when your eyes wander or when you seem distracted. Holding steady eye contact, even just for a few seconds longer than usual, creates a sense of trust, but it should feel natural. Too much and it becomes comfortable. The balance is keeping your focus on them without making it feel forced. A simple way to make people like you faster is by mirroring their energy. This doesn't mean copying everything they do, but subtly matching their tone and pace. If someone is upbeat, matching that enthusiasm makes them feel understood. If they are calm and reserved, lowering your own energy slightly makes them feel comfortable. People are drawn to those who feel familiar, and mirroring creates that effect. Naturally, names matter more than most realize. Remembering and using someone's name in conversation makes them feel acknowledged. People respond differently. When they hear their own name, it signals recognition, which builds a personal connection. If you meet someone new, saying their name once or twice during the conversation makes a lasting impression. If you struggle with names, making a conscious effort to repeat them in your head after hearing them helps. Smiling at the right moments makes a huge difference. A warm, natural smile signals friendliness and approachability. It puts people at ease. People instinctively react to the energy you give off. If you seem open and inviting, they will feel comfortable around you. But the key is authenticity. A forced smile is obvious. A real one happens when you're relaxed and genuinely engaged in the conversation. The way you respond to people's words influences how they feel about you. When someone shares something, responding with enthusiasm or understanding makes them feel heard. If they tell a story, reacting in a way that matches their excitement or concern shows that you're engaged. People remember how you made them feel. A conversation where they feel appreciated and understood sticks with them. Small compliments can instantly shift how someone feels about you. The right kind of compliment makes people feel seen instead of generic praise. Noticing something specific about them makes it more meaningful. It could be how they handled a situation, their sense of humor, or the way they explain things. People often go through life without hearing positive feedback, so a well-placed compliment can make a big impact. Your body language sends messages before you even speak. The way you stand, the way you move, and the way you use your hands all influence how people perceive you. Open body language, like keeping your arms relaxed rather than crossed, makes you seem more approachable. Leaning slightly in when someone is talking shows engagement. The small details matter. People pick up on them even if They don't realize it consciously. The tone of your voice affects how people feel when talking to you. A warm, steady tone creates a sense of comfort. A rushed or monotone voice makes conversations feel distant. The way you say something is just as important. Relationships with clients, colleagues, and customers. When you recognize their contributions, value their input, and acknowledge their importance, you create an atmosphere of cooperation and mutual respect. This makes people more likely to work with you, support your ideas, and in the long run help you achieve your goals in sales. For example, if a client feels understood and appreciated, they're more likely to trust you and buy from you. It's not just about pushing a product, it's about making the client feel confident in their decision because they know that you've taken their needs and desires seriously. In personal relationships, the same principle applies. When you make someone feel important, they're more likely to feel invested in the relationship, whether it's a friend, partner, or family member. Everyone wants to feel valued. Small acts of kindness, thoughtful gestures, and genuine interest in their well-being create a strong foundation for connection. People are more likely to reciprocate the respect and care you show them, and this creates a positive cycle where both parties feel valued. This deepens your bond, making it easier to persuade and influence each other because there's a level of trust and emotional connection that exists. Making someone feel important isn't about manipulation or using them to get what you want. It's about fostering real connections and showing empathy. It's about giving people the space to express themselves and recognizing their worth no matter who they are or where they come from. When people feel valued, they are more likely to be open to your ideas and perspectives because they trust that you have their best interests in mind. Whether it's in business, friendships, or family, making others feel important strengthens your relationships and creates a foundation for success. People want to work with, listen to, and support those who make them feel good about themselves, and in doing so you become more persuasive and influential in their lives. Chapter 12. The power of stories. How to win people over instantly. The power of storytelling cannot be underestimated when it comes to persuading others. Stories have a unique way of engaging our emotions, capturing our attention, and helping us understand complex ideas in a simple, relatable way. Think about it. Whenever you hear a good story, it sticks with you, whether it's a story about a struggle and triumph or one that shares a lesson learned from a failure. Stories resonate because they tap into universal experiences and emotions. It's not just about the information being shared, it's about how the story makes you feel, and this emotional connection is what makes people more likely to agree with your perspective or follow through on a request. Humans have been telling stories for thousands of years. It's how we've passed down knowledge, traditions, and values across generations. Stories are how we make sense of the world around us. They help us connect the dots between our personal experiences and those of others. When you weave a story into your conversation or presentation, you create a bridge that makes your message more accessible and engaging. Instead of just presenting facts, you're inviting people to be a part of something bigger. You're telling them that they too are a part of this narrative, whether they realize it or not. One of the key reasons why stories are so persuasive is that they allow people to see things from different perspectives. When you tell a story about someone who has overcome adversity, for example, the listener doesn't just hear about the struggle, they feel it. They can imagine what it's like to be in that person's shoes. Stories give us the opportunity to experience something without actually having to go through it ourselves. This ability to empathize with characters, situations, or ideas is what makes stories such a powerful tool in persuasion. Think about how often we turn to stories to explain things in our everyday lives. We tell stories about what happened at work, what we did over the weekend, or even how we overcame a challenge. The reason we do this is because stories make the message more relatable. When we share personal stories, we invite others to connect with us on a deeper level. They can see the real human side of who we are, and that makes them more open to what we have to say. It's not just about facts or logic, it's about building a connection. For persuasion, this means that when you want to influence someone, it's not enough to simply state your argument. You need to bring it to life with a story. Stories provide context that helps your listener understand why your idea matters and how it might benefit them. For example, if you're trying to persuade a colleague to take on a new project, you could tell them a story about how similar projects led to success in the past, highlighting the positive outcomes and the lessons learned along the way. This narrative will help them visualize the potential benefits, and it might make them more open to the idea. When telling a story, it's important to keep it relatable. People are more likely to be persuaded when they can see themselves in the story. If you're telling a story about a business deal, for instance, try to include elements that your audience can connect with, such as challenges they've faced in their own work or goals they've pursued. The more they can relate to the story, the more likely they are to see the value in your perspective. Another powerful aspect of storytelling is its ability to simplify complex ideas. Let's face it, some topics can be hard to understand, and sometimes it's difficult to explain something in a way that resonates. Stories, however, break down complex information into bite-sized, digestible pieces. Instead of overwhelming your audience with technical jargon or data, you can illustrate your point by telling a story that conveys the same message in a way that's easy to follow. For instance, if you're discussing the importance of teamwork, you could tell A story about a group of people working together to accomplish a shared goal, focusing on how each person contributed and how their combined efforts led to success. This makes the concept of teamwork feel tangible and real, and it's much more likely to stick with your audience. One of the best things about storytelling is that it doesn't require you to be a professional writer or a master of language. It's not about perfect grammar or elaborate sentences. It's about communicating in a way that feels authentic and human. You don't need to be overly polished or scripted. The best stories are often the ones that come across as natural, as if you're simply sharing an experience with a friend. People are more likely to connect with your message when they feel like you're speaking from the heart. When it comes to persuasion, timing is everything. A well-timed story can make all the difference. If you're trying to make a point during a discussion, don't just drop a story in the middle of the conversation. Without context, use the story to emphasize a specific point or to illustrate a key concept. Make sure it flows naturally with the discussion, and that it enhances your overall message. A story should feel like a seamless part of the conversation, not a distraction. In addition to timing, it's important to know when to keep your stories short and when to elaborate. Some stories are best told in a few sentences, while others might require a bit more detail to really pack a punch. For example, a simple story about a customer's positive experience with your product might only need a few sentences to convey the main message, but a more detailed story about overcoming a major obstacle might require a bit more depth to capture the full impact. The key is to adjust the length and detail of your story based on the message you're trying to communicate and the audience you're speaking to. The emotional aspect of stories is what makes them so persuasive. People remember how stories make them feel, and these emotions drive decisions. When you tell a story that evokes a strong emotional response, whether it's joy, empathy, inspiration, or even fear, you're more likely to leave a lasting impression. Emotion creates a connection that facts alone can't achieve. When someone feels emotionally invested in your story, they're more likely to believe in the message you're delivering. The next time you want to persuade someone, think about the story you can tell that will make them feel what you want them to feel. Maybe you want to inspire action. Tell a story that shows how someone took action and achieved success. Maybe you want to build trust. Tell a story that illustrates your credibility and reliability. Whatever the case, remember that stories are a powerful tool that can influence the way people think and act. By choosing the right story, you can create an emotional connection that makes your message more impactful and persuasive. Chapter 13: How to persuade in texts, emails, and online messages. Communication has evolved far beyond face-to-face conversations. More and more we're using texts, emails, and online messages to connect with others, whether it's for business networking or personal relationships. With all the conveniences that come with digital communication, there's one major challenge: how do you persuade people effectively through text without the benefit of body language or tone of voice? How do you make sure your words carry the right message even if they're read on a screen instead of heard in person? When it comes to persuading others in digital communication, it's crucial to understand that your words have to work harder. You can't rely on the same cues and nonverbal signals that you would in a face-to-face interaction. In text-based communication, everything is in your words, so it's important to be clear, concise, and emotionally intelligent. It's not just about the message you're sending, but how you send it. Crafting persuasive messages in emails or texts requires a strategic approach, one that balances being direct, personable, and approachable. One of the first things to consider when sorting through digital channels is how you open the conversation. The beginning of any message is crucial because it sets the tone for what's to come. When you send an email or text, your reader is deciding within the first few lines whether or not they're going to engage with the rest of your message. If you want to persuade them, you need to grab their attention right away. The best way to do this is by making sure your opening is clear, relevant, and focused on the needs. It's also important to avoid coming off as too pushy or abrupt. If your message feels like a demand or a sales pitch, the reader is likely to tune out. Instead, start with something that resonates with them: an observation, a question, or a statement that shows you understand their perspective. When you're trying to persuade someone via text or email, the next step is to get to the point quickly. People don't have time to read long, drawn-out messages, especially in today's fast-paced digital world. You need to make your main point early on and keep things as concise as possible. If you bury your key message in a sea of unnecessary details, the reader is likely to lose interest before they get to the part that matters. This doesn't mean that you should be abrupt or cold. It's about being clear and purposeful in your communication. It's also important to maintain a friendly tone in digital communication. When you're writing texts or emails, it's easy for your words to come across as flat or impersonal. Without the benefit of facial expressions or body language, your reader can misinterpret the tone of your message. That's why it's essential to infuse your writing with warmth and personality. Use a conversational tone, but be mindful of the balance. Too casual can come across as unprofessional, while being too formal can make you sound distant. Tailor your language to the person you're speaking with and Adjust based on the relationship you have with them. The goal is to create an atmosphere that feels genuine and approachable. Another key aspect of persuasive digital communication is ensuring that your message is action-oriented. If you want someone to do something, whether it's responding to your email, making a purchase, or setting up a meeting, you need to make it clear what action you want them to take. One of the best ways to do this is by including a clear call to action (CTA) at the end of your message, whether it's "let me know your thoughts" or "click here to learn more." A CTA gives your reader direction and helps them know what to do next.